Looks like a packed house. How's everyone doing? Next up, we have a great talk given the very topical Danny Ryan, who shipped the Beacon Chain, and Austin Griffith from BuidlGuidl.
Yeah. All right, Danny freaking Ryan, the big D. Danny Ryan guy, let's go. Here we go. Bring it up. Bring it up. Let's go. Yes. So the title of this talk is Inflection Point. Regulation, real-world Ethereum, the tech is lining up, the leadership is changing. You kind of thread the needle on the merge. You hot-swapped POW for POS. You left Ethereum. What happened?
Yeah, hello. I think this is the first time I've been on a stage in over a year. So that's interesting. I did leave Ethereum last year. I wasn't actually sure I would ever come back, honestly. That wasn't for lack of believing in Ethereum. It was just like, I just needed some air. I needed to come up for air, get the lay of the land, and figure out what was the right thing for me to do personally. I've been at the EF for 7-8 years, worked on some big stuff, and just needed a moment. But it was actually really good. It was good to get some air. It was good to not think purely only about Ethereum all day, every day, but at the same time begin to look at the things that I did, look at the Ethereum ecosystem, look at the EF, but from an outsider perspective. What are the successes, what has changed, and what are the challenges that we face today.
And what did you see from the outside?
I saw that the world had changed, right? I've been heads down working on shipping proof of stake, working on shipping critical upgrades to Ethereum for so long, and very, very important work. But to come up for air and see that the world was very different with respect to regulation. The world was very different with respect to blockchains and competition. The world was very different in all of these manners. And honestly, it seemed like the world actually very recently is eager to actually adopt these systems. We've been saying that for a long time, but the confluence of the tech getting there, the confluence of the user experience getting there, some changes in wallets coming up, and the regulatory specter being lifted, and honestly, people like Larry Fink saying we're tokenizing the world. It actually is different this time, and I think that blockchains are not, they're not going to be relegated to toys anymore. I think that they're really coming online now.
And you announced today that you're joining Etherealized. Specifically, I want to dive into what you plan to do there. What is the strategy? What are some real practical examples of things that you will accomplish at Etherealized?
Yeah, so I announced today I'm going on as co-founder at Etherealized with Vivek. And you've probably potentially seen on the internet, I was thinking about going back to the Ethereum Foundation. That door we closed, and I got introduced to Vivek. And Vivek has an incredible energy, and he's spent the past 4 years trying to talk to everyone on Wall Street about Ethereum, saying, this is the future, this is obviously the future. And the answer was always, apparently, we get it, but we can't touch it. And in the past 6, 8, 12 months, it's changed from yes, and we're ready, and it's time. So seeing that opportunity was very exciting. Seeing that and knowing that there's a vacuum, not only in institutions, but with government and all sorts of the things that need to come together for real-world Ethereum to happen. It just seemed like a great opportunity to complement his skill set, expand the mission and the vision to not just hit some of these initial targets, but really build a new Ethereum institution. And it seemed like it'd be a lot of fun. So that's what I'm doing.
Specifically, what I want to hear you say is there are nation states having conversations about how to come on chain. There are big institutions having these conversations. I want to hear you say that you will be in that room and you will be answering and you will be standing up for Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, as far as I can tell, there is this massive vacuum and massive desire to talk to people from the Ethereum world and the Ethereum landscape. And my intention at Etherealized is to be, make Etherealized and myself one of the answers to that. Who do we talk to? How do we make this happen? Because there's, in every other ecosystem, which are far inferior to Ethereum in almost every respect, there's somebody in that room saying, oh yeah, we'll do it. Oh yeah, like of course. Oh yeah, this is the answer. Oh yeah, here's $100 million. I don't have $100 million to give them, but I can show them the way.
Awesome. And as, yes, bring it up. Yes, he will be in that room, and that's great. And from the side of a builder and someone who's educating a lot of builders, go speedrun Ethereum if you're a builder. Yeah, speedrunethereum.com. We want to support you too. So whatever it comes to in that room, whatever they need help with, like we have an army of builders out here, then we're ready to help build whatever needs to get built.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now let's get a little weird. Let's talk about the EF. They also announced a thing today, dual leadership at the ED level. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, it became clear to me, just first from my perspective, that the range of what I was interested in accomplishing in the Ethereum ecosystem and what the boundaries of what the EF wants to set with respect to what they will do and steward and say, it was discordant. So it made sense for me to jump into something else rather than to jump in there and be properly probably constrained, but I'm excited to do some new stuff. As for the announcement of the EF, I'm super amped. Time will tell. The co-leadership is a complex thing. Sometimes in particular scenarios can work out beautifully, and I know that they're both very optimistic about this being a beautiful kind of relationship to balance each other. Xiao Wei represents deep technical expertise and represents really an understanding of how the Ethereum Foundation operates and really the good things that are there. And so I think that she can be a good anchoring. Tomas, comes from the outside, but yet still from Ethereum. Tomas has run a successful and large organization. Tomas has shipped very important things in Ethereum with Nethermind, with L2s, et cetera. And honestly, I'm excited for there to be some outside blood, someone who can come in, look at the organization as it is, and think, more clearly about the organization as it can be. So I'm optimistic.
I'm going to keep pushing here a little bit. So there's still a disagreement here between leaders at the EF, or perhaps even Vitalik and you. Would you care to just kind of comment on or give us some information or something about maybe the fundamental disagreement between you and Vitalik and how that will shape Ethereum?
I think ultimately, maybe disagreement's not the right word, but it's really defining the boundary of what the EF is and should be in relation to the ecosystem. The EF exists. And through its existence, people expect it to do certain things. And so what people expect the EF to do is probably like this. And what the EF actually does is something much more narrow. And if we had any disagreement, it's at the boundary of what the EF is today and that ring that's currently a vacuum. And so I do and hoped in that opening that conversation, they might expand that ring and fill more of that vacuum. But I don't believe that's the intention. That said, the vacuum still exists. And so I see a ton of opportunity for companies like Etherealized and for organizations that exist today and new organizations to come to fill that ring that otherwise has been a vacuum and has become very clear. To be more concrete, in Bitcoin world, there's no single foundation, so people just kind of do shit. Then you go to the other side of the spectrum, and you have competing blockchains like Solana, and they have some organization that exists that sits in the middle, and they're willing to do everything. And we're in this weird middle zone where we have a very important institution at the center of Ethereum, but they're not going to do everything. And so I do hope to help fill the vacuum, fill the void with Etherealized, And I hope that others, through this conversation we've all had over the past 4 weeks on the internet, talking about Ethereum's future, people realizing that that ring exists and we should all be filling the vacuum.
100%. We need to go fill the vacuum, all of us. Every single organization, institution, builder, everyone out there. It's about stepping up. Okay, here's maybe a soft pitch. We got 9 minutes left, and I'm nearing the end of my questions.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Slow pitch, how does Ethereum win? Or maybe that's way complicated, too.
I mean, my thesis is that the world is actually ready to adopt blockchain systems. There's also a gap between meeting the world where it is and Ethereum as it is today getting to where it needs to be. And so I think what we do is we fill this gap, right? We knock on the door, we talk to the institutions, we talk to the banks, we talk to the consumers, we talk to the governments, we figure out how the hell we actually bring them onto these systems. And at the same time, allow that to inform critical research and development at layer 1, layer 2, and the application layer to make sure that Ethereum as it is today steps up and fills that void and meets the world as it is. Very abstract. I know that there's 100,000 little things to do that. I plan on trying to meet from both sides. I want to help figure out what do institutions need, what do governments need, what do other people need. And become an active player again in the R&D space to help inform where Ethereum goes from here. But as I said on my post, like Ethereum is a bazaar. That I will intend to be one of those players in the bazaar, but we're gonna all have to build this together.
You're really close to the R&D, or you were 6 months ago, right? Like R&D to you is something that I think is like second nature to you. Will there be as much R&D at Etherealized, or is this more BD and R&D is to EF, or what do you see the role of R&D in the future?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players, right? There's the Ethereum Foundation that does very important research. There's a dozen client teams that do badass engineering, but increasingly are the critical R&D players. There's a lot of other companies and institutions that also show up to the table. One of the reasons that I went to Etherealized was to expand the mandate and to, under that, perform some R&D over there. So I do hope to build a pretty crack team over there and be a player, one of the players at the table here, to help move the needle. So, yeah.
What does real-world Ethereum even mean? Does it mean like my mom using Ethereum? Does it mean institutions using Ethereum? Is it all of those things?
So I'll answer part of that question.
Okay.
I had exited Ethereum. I was in a contemplative state, just hanging out with my family, doing the thing. And I watched the to-be president of the United States launch, well, I won't, something. I was just like, oh, this isn't going to end well. And I got really worried about crypto from like an existential standpoint. And it was like, crypto's been a scammer's paradise in many respects. It also has massive promise and a lot of very interesting things going on. I think you get that with a lot of early tech in general. The internet itself in the 90s, lots of very positive things, but like, gambling and porn. I mean, which is, to each their own. Nonetheless, I got pretty worried. One, that we could usher in just like a new wave of arguably like crime on blockchains. And that although regulation might end up in a good spot for crypto for some time horizon, that the pendulum could easily swing far back in the other direction in not too distant of the future. So I see the demand for institutions specifically wanting to adopt blockchains, and I see it as actually potentially existential. If BlackRock's serious and they're ready to tokenize the world, let's fucking do it. Because once we do that, the regulatory pendulum can only swing back so far. And so certainly one of like the primary targets for me at Etherealized is to bring real world assets on chain. One, because blockchains will be established. They will not be going anywhere once that happens. Additionally, I really do think that the democratization of access to financial products and assets and things, not only in the U.S., but maybe even on a global front, ultimately will lead to like a safer and more equitable, fair and more equitable world. So there's a lot going on there. And real world Ethereum doesn't end at institutions. That's just one of our initial targets over at Etherealized.
I just want to double click on that. Like the regulation has swung back the other way. Institutions are wanting to come on chain. If we bring them on chain, and when regulation swings back the other way, it can only go so far. That's so critical. And so like we have like a couple years, 4 years to really like make this move happen.
Yeah, I really see it as like a unique opportunity in time that we have to capitalize on, and that it's critical for Ethereum. It's not the only opportunity in this window, and there's tons of different opportunities that I think Etherealized and many others in the space will be capitalizing over on the next few years, but it's a super important target.
Kind of, down the road of meme coins a little bit, there is a piece here of following the meta and understanding like what is important in the space and what is hot, and not being a super cold, decentralized layer, but actually like being warm and open to whatever that meta is, even if it is meme coins, AI agents, TEEs. What do you think about following the meta, and like, is Ethereum doing enough there?
I mean, my personal thesis is that Ethereum should focus on real decentralized systems and real value for real people as much as possible. That does not mean that like following the meta isn't valuable. AI what look like toy AI agent experiments might become critical to to blockchains and society. What become meme coins as a simple meme coin, I see it's not my thing. But experiments in organizing communities and layering in functionality and stuff, like it can be a stratum for something valuable. So yet I do not think that the Ethereum ecosystem should just chase what's hot. I do think that 95% of what we are focusing on as a community and as a group should be building real things, building things of tangible value, building sustainable protocols and goods, and building on the backbone of a truly decentralized and open platform.
Awesome. Okay. Woo! Let's go. Let's go. And you've already answered this backstage, but I want to make sure we kind of talk about it out loud here. The two things that you said that are really important to bring these folks on chain are scalability and privacy. And both of those are super important. But I kind of wanted to touch first on scalability, and I know the answer to this, but I want you to say it. Was the L2 roadmap wrong?
Not at all. Systems, and we talked about this, like you cannot have like monolithic systems that scale to meet the global adoption. Like that is not how computation works. That's not we haven't seen that pretty much anywhere in computer science and in practical engineering, and thus you have to have a modular approach. That does not mean we shouldn't turn the knob up to the extent that is possible in L1, but this thing, a modular future is critical.
Amazing. Danny Ryan, everyone. The ticker is ETH. Let's go.